Welcome, Madam Nouy. I'm just over here. Hello. On the question of risk that our President has just raised, are you concerned about the current level of competition? Are you concerned about the current level of competition between different financial centres in Europe as a means of attracting firms from Britain in the financial services area post-Brexit? And I say that given the fact that right the way across your presentation this morning you spoke about minimising risk, making sure that capital requirements were strong. I also say it in the context where ESMA said recently that it is concerned and is looking at the question of risk of regulatory arbitrage as different financial centres hunt for some of the financial services from the City of London as a consequence of Brexit. What is the view of the SSM on this? Has there been some study within the SSM? I'm sure you are concerned, as we all are, at the prospect of brass plating, of regulatory arbitrage. And can I finally ask you, in the context of creating a level playing pitch as the key supervisor in this area, will you be bringing forward your views in terms of bank-to-bank booking, concentration risk, large exposure, approved internal modelling, to have an even application, a consistent application, not just in the context of what we face right now post-Brexit, but in the context of having clarity for all regulators to apply the same rules across the board without undue competition which could be unfair in a circumstance of a single market. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Well, yes, we are following carefully the evolution of the situation, and the location in SSM countries or in other European countries of London-based banks should not be the opportunity for a race to the bottom. Regarding banking supervision in euro area, at least there cannot be race to the bottom and there cannot be competition for supervision because we are totally neutral on the city where these banks might go, and we will implement the same kind of supervision. But there are loopholes, obviously. Part of those loopholes will be addressed by the so-called intermediate parent undertaking, IPU, which is a holding that permits to have consolidation at the level of the banking union or the rest of Europe. But it's not strong enough yet to avoid the loopholes. First of all, we have the question of the broker-dealer status, investment firm companies in the CRD4 CRR. I think we cannot, we have to it's a kind, it might turn into a kind of light version of a bank, which bank supervision. So that would not be correct. We have to know that in the UK, it is an integrated supervisors. Certain institutions are broker-dealers, certain are banks, but it's in the power of the PRA to take a broker-dealer that is as systemic as a bank on doing banking operations, take them based on their judgment in the category of banks. You can be called a broker-dealer, but for us you are a bank and you will be implementing banking supervision. I cannot do that in the SSM regulation on current regulation. So for certain firms, investment banks in London, they can be attracted by countries by saying, I will give you a status of broker-dealer, so you will be supervised by me, not by the SSM. And on top of that, well, it's not exactly the same status, and nobody will force you to be supervised as a bank. So this has to be addressed. Another issue is branches. In my view, the branch of third countries should be attached to the intermediate holding company, because otherwise different supervisors. A branch of a third country is supervised by national competent authorities now. So we could have, in fact, institutions that have subsidiaries in the SSM, let's say, it can be in other countries of Europe as well, but in the SSM, that would have the subsidiary to get the passport, put in the balance sheet a lot of operations, for example, with a back-to-back model, but have some kind of empty shell in the part which is supervised by the SSM. So I think we need this intermediate parent undertaking, this intermediate holding company, but we need to have the branches attached to them, and we need to have the broker-dealers, investment firm, to be able to be supervised, like currently, like banks when they are behaving like banks at the SSM level. Because otherwise it will be very fragmented and very difficult to supervise. A branch, national authority, investment firm, national authority, but the subsidiary in the SSM. We don't want to authorize also empty shell. So the back-to-back model cannot be an empty shell. We want what is needed in the SSM to be domiciliated in the SSM, internal control, risk management, and so on and so forth. And back-to-back model in London is not the same as the one that is proposed to us to a certain extent now. Back-to-back in London means what is in London is then booked in the US. What we are seeing is it's booked in SSM, but it goes to London then to get the work done, and then it goes to the US. That's not as simple as the back-to-back booking that is used currently. So that's not something that goes without the discussion on challenges, on additional conditions and requests. Obviously, there might be a transitory period. It can be developing over time, the subsidiary, but it has to be quite strong.